Hi, with me today I have Adam Roberti. Adam Roberti is director of Cortada projects. He's also a graduate of the University of Miami with a couple of degrees from there, all environmental related degrees. Adam, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are right now.
Sure. So I, like Xavier said, graduated from UM with a Bachelor's of Arts in Ecosystem Science and Policy, and I also had a theater minor. And then I proceeded to get my master's degree in Environment, Culture, and Media, which is basically an interdisciplinary climate communications master's program.
And
Um,
while you were at the university, you were also involved in some environmental work, right? What were you doing within the university?
So there's the Office of Sustainability. So I was working with the sustainability manager. I was the communications and outreach coordinator. So I was helping him by writing stories and making short videos that we would put out for the university to show on screens across campus and through the daily newsletter that gets sent out to the entire university community.
Yeah. And I mean, you also had some student leadership roles, and obviously, even through your work at Cortada Projects, are really involved with the university students. In fact, uh, thank you. You spent an entire year organizing students to go to every library in Miami-Dade County with our with our project, the plant project, and of course had our university students come in to the farmers market and engage community. So you have a pulse of the university as someone who just spent the last 6 years before coming to Cortada projects there, and of course intensively over the last year by engaging and interacting with mostly environmental students, but students from all disciplines who care about the environment. And I just wanted to take a moment and sort of talk to you a little bit about this pandemic. You are clearly throughout your entire career as a student and currently an environmental leader, a young environmental activist, and you are in touch with many of the environmental leaders in our community. And I just want to get your perspective as what you think about this pandemic, and importantly, what your peers, the ones that you hang out on all sorts of social media these days, are feeling at this moment about this pandemic in relation to the climate emergency that we are enduring.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting question because there's so much variability. Like there's a lot of range in what I'm seeing. There's a lot of people who are sad. You know, they're seeing what's happening with the economy, and they're seeing their friends and family members lose their jobs, and they're really upset because this has never happened before. Something like this has never. It seems to any of us, it's never happened before. This is brand new. Nobody expected it, and so it's front and center. It's what everybody's talking about. But then at the same time, you have so many people who are just kind of like, okay, it's happening, but it's going to go away soon. Life's going to return to normal, and it's going to be a thing of the past, and they don't necessarily see the big picture as to what's going on here. And then in terms of the climate crisis, like you said, I feel like I'm in touch with a lot of the environmental leaders that are in the community, and the people that are doing the environmental work are very much trying to get the message across that, okay, we have this pandemic in front of us, and it's obviously a huge issue. At the same time, we have climate change. We have this climate crisis, which poses, I don't want to say an infinitely greater threat, but I mean, in terms of the repercussions, they're massive in scale. So as much as we want people to, obviously take social distancing seriously and stay at home, we also want people to understand the urgency and the vulnerability that we have to climate change. What is going to happen in 50 years from now if we have another pandemic, but at the same time that we have even if it's just a similarly small, relative to like the 1918 flu, a similarly small pandemic. What happens if that's happening at the same time as a huge mass migration, at the same time that we have a Category 5 hurricane and then a Category 4 hurricane, at the same time that we have wildfires on the West Coast, at the same time that sea levels are rising, at the same time that we have floods and droughts? Like, there's just so many things that are going to compound and make it so hard to deal with a pandemic. We're dealing with this pandemic poorly, and we're good. You know what I mean? Like, our economy was booming. Like, we have people working. It's not like we have these natural disasters all over the place. But how can we be expected to respond to anything like this if we have so many other things to deal with? And that's, I think, something that the environmental community is trying to get across, is that, this pandemic points out our vulnerability. It points out our weakness at responding to a situation, like to an emergency. And we are not prepared, and we need to be prepared if we don't want to lose millions of lives and billions of dollars.
What are some of your peers in the environmental movement who, again, are sheltered in place? They don't have access to the kind of places and spaces and engagement opportunities they did before. What are they doing presently around the issue? Clearly, they are also trying to take care of themselves, their families, and living in a new reality. But are they finding creative ways of doing something and of connecting the dots, of showing people that this, as you just explained, this thing that we're experiencing now is a consequence of our neglect and worse of our climate, of our world, of our planet, of our environment?
Yeah, no. So some people are getting really creative, and I'm gonna say that with a grain of salt, because too many people are doing nothing at all. But I'm gonna focus on the people that are doing something, and that is that they're organizing online. They're using the social media platforms that they have in really cool ways. Like, they're making little short, funny videos to get people to go to an online meeting, right? Like, to kind of hook them with a TikTok, or just something that they wouldn't necessarily expect from somebody who's trying to talk to them about divestment and climate change, right? So by using these forums, by using Instagram, I think that people are getting to be innovative, and it's inspiring. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I'm seeing a few people doing this, and then we just had the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. I'm seeing so many other people take that opportunity to post their cool travel pics. They post a picture from that time that they went to Finland and the beautiful hillside and happy Earth Day. And it's like, okay, that's great. I love that that you appreciate the planet, but I think we can do better than that, than just posting our vacation pictures. So yeah.
In a world where there, as you so perfectly described, is enough for us to live in despair, in a world where telling the truth about something sounds dystopian, apocalyptic, in a world where the truth is hard to hear, I know that you feel that being hopeful and positive is a really, really important thing to do, which is great for someone who's in his mid-20s to have that perspective, because more negativity will befall you just because you'll be living on this planet longer than those of us who are older. So I'm happy that you are positive and hopeful. How would you frame a message about all the calamity that you just talked about that would actually get someone to do something positive instead of feel overwhelmed and unable to act, paralyzed? What would you do to actually motivate someone? Like, give me an argument that would connect the dot between this pandemic and action.
Yeah, so I mean, I think if you connect the dots between just the pandemic and climate change, and you look at, if you just purely look at our government's inability to respond, then we need to say, okay, we need major systemic change. We need structural change. So how do we get to this major change that we need? It's more than just me saying, hey, Xavier, can you become vegan or do a meatless Monday? Like, we need more than just these personal changes. So what is the argument that I would make that would make it so that we actually have a hope, like you said, like a chance of getting what we need? And what I would say is that we are kind of, where we're sitting right now is in the perfect place and time for huge change to happen. And what I mean by place, I mean Miami, because at this point, my audience is not national or international, right? So it's South Florida. And if any place in the country, arguably the most powerful country in the world, if any place is going to get up out of their seat and raise their voice, it's going to be Miami. We're ground zero. We're the most impacted by climate change, from stronger hurricanes to salt water intrusion to sea level rise. So here is where people should be getting angry, should be getting upset, should be telling their elected officials how they feel loud. I know Miami people can get loud. Miamians, we know how to raise our voice. So I don't think that that's an issue. And that being the case, we're in a place where we're most affected. We should care the most. We're also in the perfect time. We have a way to communicate with our peers, with our family, with our friends like never before. We can communicate so easily. And that's such a tool. And I think we just need to understand the power that we have. And I think that if we can get the message across that we are in the place and we're in time to make major change, that alone can give someone hope to think that, okay, what I do can actually make a difference. It can actually matter. It's not gonna just do nothing. I understand that climate change is a global issue. It's huge, but me and my community can make global size change.
Thank you, Adam. And as you know, my every Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, like yours, is meatless. Look, one person can indeed make a difference, and there's no clear way of looking at that than this pandemic and its infectious aspects. You can go outside, engage with the public, and by that one decision, you can become the vector of disease for others. You, one person, can make that difference. You, that one person, can decide to stay at home and stop pain and death from happening across the community. If there has ever been a moment where your action or inaction has incredible consequences, I think this pandemic says it. I just know this, that people in my generation are extremely hopeful because of the people in your generation. And I am so happy that you are among those leaders in South Florida who's trying to motivate your peers to effectuate some change. Stay hopeful, and thanks so much for being part of this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for leading the way for us, Xavier.
Take care.